first drop we did sold out in 2 minutes. We're like, okay, that's cool. We just spent the last 3 months building up all this hype. And then it happened again and again and again. Right now, we're close to about like 120 to 130 drops since day one, completely selling out. How your customers coming into your brand should be like how your emails are presented to them. We've always been a very, very highly visual, high-end content company. Your email should match that. We're literally doing a photo shoot per email. We have an insane repeat buyer. One of my KPIs is literally fighting for new customers into our funnel because of our drop model. Our current customers are so fast at buying the knives that they don't allow new customers to buy knives, which is a wild scenario to actually be in.
Brandon Horoho from Montana Knife Company is coming to the stage. One of my favorite podcast guests, has such an interesting story for how they built this business, how they continue to scale it. I thought that was a mic. You're not strapped. I thought you had a knife on. It was
I do have.
You are strapped with a knife, okay, just in case. Welcome, man.
No, dude, thank you.
Give Brandon a nice warm round of applause.
Thanks, guys.
Why don't you kick us off? Tell us about your insights today.
Okay, great. So I'll start off with a little bit of like history of Montana Knife Company. It's got one of the coolest origin stories that I've ever seen in any brand that I've worked with, and like being part owner of it makes me even more proud too, because it's wild. It was almost born a legacy brand from the beginning. So it actually started 20 years ago, but it actually goes further back to when my business partner, Josh Smith, who is a knife maker, he started making knives at the age of 11. By the age of 19, he became the youngest master bladesmith ever. So, in the world right now, there's only like 130 to 135 master bladesmiths that's ever tested and qualified. So he's one of the top knife makers ever. And, this was through, in the early 90s, going into the early 2000s, pre-internet, when, you got famous through magazines and stuff like that. During the early 2000s, then that show Forged in Fire popped off, and he was on the first couple of seasons of that. But the cool thing is that Josh actually had the hindsight of like, hey, I've been making these custom knives. I'm selling these knives for anywhere between $3,000 to sometimes he made swords for sheiks, and they were $30,000 each. So he's making these super high-end knives, but he always wanted to make a hunting knife because he's from Montana. And the problem is that even if you make the most basic knife with none of the champagne finishes, it still would equal out his time. He still would have to charge you a couple $1,000s to do it. So he's just like, this isn't right. And all my buddies want hunting knives, and all the hunting knives on the market are kind of junk right now. How do I get into mass production? But, at that time, he had no idea about manufacturing, marketing, all that stuff, but he did have the hindsight to go and trademark Montana Knife Company. And his mom actually bought the URL in 2000. So think about that.
The .com bust had just happened.
Literally. So it's wild because I had to go find where this URL was parked when we actually started the company officially, and it was hosted on some little defunct web company had it in Lincoln, Montana. So Josh registers the name, he becomes a great knife maker, all this stuff. And then 2008 happens. And obviously everyone knows what happened in 2008. The economy crashes, and out of nowhere, Josh went from having this long list of pre-orders of knives to nothing left. That was the first thing people kind of kicked out of their budget, were like high-end knives. So he's like, okay, well, I guess knife making's done. I'll go get a job. So he went and actually got a job with the Powerline company in Montana. Went through a really rough patch in his life. He has this amazing hero's journey because, he went through a rough patch, got a divorce, he has 4 kids, and then his house blew up. And I'm talking into toothpicks. It was a gas leak. So literally at one point in his life, fresh divorce, 4 kids, and his house just blew up into pieces. So everything he owned is gone. And so after that, he's still working for the Powerline company, rebuilds his house, finds his new wife. That's about 2019, 2020. He's like, it's time to do something. So he started acting on the idea of bringing Montana Knife Company to life. So Josh and I actually met through a different conference that's in the strength area, which is totally a wild connection. So we're both from Montana. We both live in Montana, but we connected through Bert Soren at Sorenex. He holds this amazing outdoor convention where he brings in top professional athletes and he mixes them in with the outdoor industry. So Josh was there to make knives. And he brought these random couple prototypes, and luckily someone in the marketing department of the store next knew about me through my connection in the fitness and apparel industry. And then he connected Josh and I. So it's 2019. I go down to his shop. We start taking pictures, and I'm talking, this is the height of the pandemic. And I had an agency, it was called Makers Creative. The idea was like, hey, how can I help makers get onto the D2C space? And like, how do I get them onboarded onto Klaviyo and Shopify and all this stuff and kind of handle all that stuff? So it's kind of wild. I had this idea to help people like Josh, and the idea was to have like a bunch of these, not just one. So that agency probably lasted about 6 months before I had to pretty much offboard everybody and just focus on MKC. But we launched during literally the peak of COVID. I'm talking mass shutdowns. And that's where it pretty much all started. Like that's when we set up the website and we actually started getting knives into production. And it was a wild time for us because the uncertainty in the market was insane. All import was shut off. So we really did have to lean hard into the American manufacturing. And that was the one core thing we always wanted to do. Knives is 100% American made. We've always wanted to do that because it allowed us to take what was happening in the knife industry, which anyone who's been collecting knives for a while, early 2000s, mid-teens and 2000s, the knife industry started racing to the bottom of the barrel. Like, how do we make the cheapest knife possible just so that like people just collect them, the edge dolls, instead of trying to resharpen them, they just go and throw them away. But then also what that was doing was the biggest thing is like, it was literally removing one of the things that men pass down to their kids. So there's not a lot of things, as dads and stuff like that we're going to pass down to our kids that our kids actually want. And it's usually watches, firearms, harmonicas. The other big one is knives. Like no one throws away a knife. I guarantee a lot of people in here have a knife from their dad or their grandfather and stuff like that. But the entire industry was going to these replaceable blades and disposable knives, and we were losing that. We're not getting our grandfather's old timer knife, or our grandfather's old buck knife and all that stuff. So that's kind of like where we planted our flag, and that was the origin of Montana Knife Company. It was like, how can we bring back that tradition? And knives are literally the oldest tool that's ever been invented, sharp, pointy thing to help you cut something. So that's the origin story behind Montana Knife Company.
Tell us about where you are today.
Yeah. Year one was a lot of just scrapping and bootstrapping everything. It was just Josh and I making knives in a 2-car garage, and then we hired our first employee who is still with us. He was 17 years old. Tristan's he's like one of our best employees and one of our like top managers now too. And we started making knives, and the big thing for what we're doing is, we do drops, and people say that it's like built-in scarcity and all that stuff, but we're manufacturing everything ourselves. So it's like a built-in scarcity, unfortunately, because like I wish I had more knives to sell every single week. So, but back in 2020, Josh and I would look and be like, how much steel can we buy? Okay, that would make us 200 knives. And we'd make 200 knives. And while we were making them, we were documenting that entire process. Like, hey, we're having trouble ordering steel. We're trying to find a manufacturer for nuts and bolts. We can't find a guy who actually knows how to run a laser, and like all these like different components. And we were very, very transparent about like the whole growing pains of this company. And I think that's one of the things that like brought our customers in, because it was wild, because like we would get phone calls of like guys being like, hey man, I got like some old car springs in the back of my like yard, like I can bring them down and you can make knives out of it. Like, well, we appreciate that, it's a different type of steel, but so everybody wanted to help us. So, but then like we would do these drops, and first drop we did like sold out in like 2 minutes. And we're like, okay, that's cool. Like we didn't expect that, but like also too, like we just spent the last 3 months building up all this hype, talking about the process and doing all this stuff. And then it happened again and again and again and again. And right now we're probably close to about like 120 to 130 drops since day one of just completely selling out. The first year, we were probably only doing 7 or 8 drops a year. Now we're doing 52 drops a year. So we're doing one every single Thursday, including some other Saturdays and Sundays and stuff like that too.
We've got your drop calendar here that we can take a little look at.
Yes.
What goes into a Montana Knife Co. drop?
Yeah, so this is, here's my pride and joy. So my COO, Andrew, he's actually this amazing hire that we got from Amazon. So he saw our company and he's like, I love Amazon, but he's like, but I want to come help grow something. So he came, worked for us. This is where literally marketing and operations literally lockstep. I can't sell anything that he can't make, and vice versa. So the idea is like, how can we plan this out as much as possible? And this does two things twofold. So it helps them on the manufacturing side. It helps us plan out. So if you scroll over, like, we're actually planned the whole way out to 2026. We know exactly what we are dropping every single Thursday. We know the exact quantity. We know the exact everything. But then what that does is that allows my team, my marketing team, there's zero decision fatigue in their weekly decisions on what they have to do. They know exactly what knife they're shooting. So pretty much that bucket is there. They just have to fill it full of the most creative content possible. And I've never seen a team operate this systematic, but also without like over managing like the creative staff. So like, I'm just really, really proud of what our content team is coming up with. And I think it is due to part of pretty much just removing that decision fatigue of like, hey, what should we do this week? It's like, no, on Thursday night, we are dropping a paring knife. Like, so your 7 days of content is all gonna be like, how do you market a paring knife? Content based around culinary. And like, don't even think about the other 35 knife SKUs because we don't have them on the website to sell. So there's no reason to even post about it.
Super neat. And you were saying last night when we were chatting, you're looking like you're going to double this year. Mm-hmm. This is all without even entering the folding knife market, which is the biggest pocket knife market, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of the elephant in the room, or what keeps us up at night, is what we're doing right now is like we're actually selling pretty much the most niche version of a knife. We're selling a hunting knife. And in the United States, only 2% of the United States actually have a hunting tag. So as big as you think as the hunting industry is from what you see on TV and stuff like that, it's actually a really, really small demographic of the United States. We're selling a fixed blade hunting knife. When you look at any of our peers, any other big guys, their hunting department is usually their smallest out of their entire SKU mix. But then when you even go a little broader, you say like, hey, it's a fixed blade knife. So that includes hunting knives, chef sets, or chef knives, fillet knives, things like that. That's usually only 10% of their product mix. The other 90% are pocket knives. So we've gotten this far in business so far without even getting into the one item that like everybody wants. And like and now we're so far into our business that like when we do launch a pocket knife or a folding knife, we have to make sure the demand we actually meet some type of demand there. So it's not like we can just drop 1,000 or 2,000, 3,000. This is something where we're actually having to buy an entire manufacturing facility to take this next step.
And okay, so into the anatomy of a drop, when you plan these out week in, week out, so you're coordinating an email strategy, an organic social strategy, a paid social strategy, and paid goes across Facebook, Google. Like, are each of these drops being coordinated across every platform?
It is, yeah. So everything we do goes into that Thursday night. Everything. Like, we literally forget about everything else that's going on in our business, and it's all about what's happening that Thursday night. The paid side of it, like, that's new to us. We finally figured out how to kind of do some paid, and we have to do it through some loopholes because of the regulations of what we're selling. But everything that we're doing it's so like our entire email campaign. So we're sending out 5 emails before the knife is even live to buy. And so like everything is dedicated to those emails. Those emails are our greatest revenue generator. Last point of contact, like their attribution, it's around 75% of all of our customers are coming through our email or our text message. So we put a lot of effort into our emails. We put way more effort into our emails than we probably do our social media and stuff like that. So every single email we do it has a custom, like we're literally doing a photo shoot per email. And we're putting that much energy into every single email that we send out because that's like the true bread and butter. And I also do want to talk about like we have an insane email schedule every single week. And when I usually tell people what our email schedule is, they look at me like I'm absolutely nuts. Like I said, we send out 5 emails specifically for this drop. So we send someone out that's related on Tuesday to a Tuesday drop. Wednesday is like, hey, this is dropping tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we actually send out 3 emails to our entire active segment every single Thursday. So we send a morning, a 2 hours out, and then what we call our nuke, the live. My background is in email marketing. And if like 5 10 years ago, if I ever tried to pitch this or set up, we should be doing this, I would have thought it was insane. But it's actually working when you're actually doing it on a consistent level, and you're also putting the amount of effort into the emails. And it's weird how many compliments we get, man. We're like, we love your emails.
Yeah.
Because of like how big the imagery is, and also too,
and
like,
it's a drop.
It's
not just something you're recycling from your catalog that's coming out. It's like a drop each time. So there's a real reason to be messaged every time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. And our emails are simple. It's just like, hey, this knife is available Thursday.
Yeah.
Just like you were saying, just keep it simple. And it truly is that easy.
What percentage, so like right now from ads, just from like running ads, converting people in the funnel on like Meta, that's a pretty small percentage of the business right now?
It is. It really is. Because like I said, like our limitations, Google and Facebook both deem us a weapon. So we're a hunting knife, and they deem us a weapon because they think that they're going out and killing animals with our knife. Like, if someone ever does that, God bless. That's insane.
Good luck.
But I even had meetings with the Google Ethic Board and some people at Meta and stuff like that. The problem is like it's just such a gray area between the two things. I understand why and honestly, it allows a little higher bar of entry to get into our industry. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, not to make a knife pun, but. So for us to run ads, like we could run like brand specific ads, and then like we run a lot of ads towards our apparel, and then we've been doing a lot of accessories like pens and cutting boards.
Lighters. Are lighters restricted? No, they're not really.
No, they're not. Yeah. So
really interesting. I think we've probably got a few people in sort of restricted industries here, whether it's Breeze or whether it's Hashstash or, and I think I remember that's like the Hims method or whatever, when they were selling, they can't sell ED pills or whatever, but they were selling other things like hair stuff, and then they would sell the things that were restricted on the back end.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been helping that top of funnel awareness. But the nice thing is like, since we've never been able to run ads, we spent so much time in that bottom part of the funnel. So if we can get someone to our website and then get them retargeted in our emails and like into the ethos of the company, like that part there took so long to like make it perfect and like work on that like as long as we just get people to the website, that's all that matters. I wish we can say like, hey, this is the most award-winning knife ever. It has 2,000 reviews and like all this stuff, but our paid ad strategy, it's wild. And like, I still don't really understand it because we're testing so much and we're also getting restricted so much. And
it all goes to the same site, right? My understanding used to be you needed to be like 2 clicks away from something that was restricted or whatever. Is that still the case?
No, it still is the case.
Yeah.
So our main website is montanaknifecompany.com, but then we have montanaculinary.com, and then we have like mkc.co. And then like the mkc.co, you go there and it's just like a watered down version of our homepage. Looks just like it, but it has like all of our apparel, cutting boards, non-restricted items on there. But then once they click through that, it goes to the main MKC site.
Basically, it looks like you kind of doubled, or you're on pace to double this year.
Yeah.
Is that just from doing drops every week as opposed to every other week? Is that where most of the growth has come from?
Yeah, so this year's growth has been contributed to, so last year we actually wanted to go in stock with a knife, or like one of our annuities. So our top 3 models is the Speed Goat, the Blackfoot, and then we have a Stonewall. They're just like your very basic hunting knives. So for the first 3 years, all we did was drops. And then we're like, okay, we should probably talk about like putting in an effort on the manufacturing side to make enough supply to start going in stock. And it's wild, there's all these times I've been so wrong in business. I thought that the second we start going in stock with a knife that's just available all the time, that it was going to just completely just ruin, like crush the excitement about our Thursday nights. And we couldn't have been more wrong about that. They were actually 2 completely different customer segments. There was like what we have happening every single Thursday night, and like I invite you guys like next Thursday, go check it out. Like just go check out the social media and the website and like all that stuff. But like that's a different customer. That person like gets high off of like sitting there at 6:50 with their credit card information typed in and shipping and ready and trying to beat everybody, and then hopping onto like the Facebook group and the Instagram page and bragging about how they got a knife because they sold out in like 45 seconds. But then what we didn't realize is like that in-stock customer who doesn't want to deal with Thursday night, maybe an older demo, was about the same size of demand. So one of the craziest stats was in 2021, when we went in stock right before Christmas, we had, I think I had bookmarked, we had like 9,600 customers who owned a knife. And then the second we went in stock, literally in 1 week, we went from 9,000 to almost 13,000 customers, like new customers. So now we kind of have two different revenue streams happening. Is we have the in-stock knives, and then we have our drops. But the problem is too, is that this year, like our demand's gotten so fast that now when I put something in stock, it's just selling out just as fast. So they're not really technically in stock. So now we have these things called Send It Saturdays. So we're pretty much replicating what we do on Thursday, but on a Saturday with just a much shorter build up.
You shared some financial numbers here. I don't know what you're prepared or interested to talk about here, but what stands out to you when you look at this in terms of your KPI and how you guys think about growing this business? I know your EBITDA numbers are pretty crazy.
Yeah, some of the numbers that I'm really excited about is our product mix. For a knife company, we're going to do about 10% of our top line revenue is going to be all apparel and accessories. For us, that's huge because we're also a manufacturing company too. So, we have 70 employees, 50 of them we call concrete walkers versus carpet walkers. So we have about 20 people on the business side and about 50 people on the manufacturing side. So my job as a marketer and like the VP is to not tax the manufacturing side to increase revenue. Because if I take up machine time or do anything that, it takes away from making knives. In between these drops, we've been having a lot of fun as the marketing team is coming up with different products like t-shirts, hats, all these different things to kind of drive revenue. Essentially, all of our hats and apparel and gear is paying for all of our ad spend.
So you've done a collab with DTC now with these awesome Zippo lighters. Yeah. I know there's some other people in the room that would love to chat collabs. What are you guys doing in the collab space?
Yeah, so this is probably one of our biggest wins in the past year and a half is collabs. So again, we're highly, highly restricted. Can't run top of funnel Facebook ads really well. So like, how do we get in front of new customers? And this is something that like, I cannot stress enough. It's been such a needle mover for us, but it's something where you really have to have that human element and you have to have that trust between brands because you're going to start mixing data. And so that's one thing that we started doing is since we have this brand that we always joke is like, the new hot girl at school. Like everyone wants to, talk to us and hang out with us right now as we don't have knives in stock and stuff like that. So we're leveraging that excitement and going to larger legacy brands and be like, so a good example is like Hoyt. Who makes bows, and they've been making bows for 100 years and they have this massive customer data entry field and like all this stuff and like all these points of contacts and stuff like that. But they're selling all of their bows through dealerships and stuff like that. They don't do any D2C. But I'm like, hey guys, like listen, but you have all these fans that love your bows but you can't sell them anything direct to consumer because you have to go through dealers. Like, how about this? Like, let's set up a secret knife drop that has the Hoyt engraving on it. You can only get it through this landing page. And we build out all the content. We shoot it for them. We pretty much make this entire thing turnkey. And then what they do is they send an email out from their platform to our website. And then we sell those knives. We engrave them the next day and ship them. So we've been doing that with a ton of brands and making a big deal about that. And that's been a huge for us because it's just bringing so much traffic to our website.
So you've got archery. What other kinds of you're looking for other things in the ecosystem, basically the hunting ecosystem?
Yeah, so it's just not even the hunting space, but we've done it with Black Rifle Coffee.
Yeah.
Just last weekend, we did a really cool collab with Mike Rowe, the celebrity Mike Rowe, and like the Mike Rowe Works Foundation. We raised, I think, $67,000 with his collab. So that kickback in that collab, in those collabs could either go back to the company or in a form of a discount to the customer, or when we do the fundraisers, obviously donate back to the to the foundations.
Cool. What's going on with hunting culture right now? Is it growing? Is it sort of as a backlash to the world centralizing or people getting out in nature more? Like, what's going on with hunting culture?
Yeah, definitely in the United States. Like during COVID, there was a massive boom in the hunting space just because like everyone just wanted to get outside.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people doing that. But then also to the Joe Rogan effect, with him just talking about bow hunting for literally 5 years straight on every single podcast.
Chimps, the chimp market went way up too.
Yeah, chimps are real high. They're real big right now. So like there's this massive adoption, but it's wild because it's a massive adoption, but from like millennials. But on the hunting space, we're losing kids learning how to hunt at a younger age. So we're having this mass adoption right now, but there's no one coming in behind them. So it's our goal in the hunting industry to try to like onboard and kind of like keep that family hunting culture alive.
And you're doing that in content, you're doing that in collabs? Like how are you actually doing that?
It's something we talk about, and it's just like, how do you just influence people without trying to force them, and just kind of get them, like trying to get them to understand the need for that.
Any questions out here for Mr. Brandon Horoho? We got a couple here, yeah.
So just curious, if your ads are pretty restrictive with Meta and Google and whatnot, what's your primary means of driving traffic and building brand awareness?
Yeah, so right now, it's a pretty wild mix. From day one when we set up the company, I kind of went after the boring stuff first. I was like, well, we're setting up manufacturing and all this stuff, like let's go after, so we started doing SEO really, really early. Like I'm talking, that was the very first contractor I hired. Thank God one of my best friends owned an SEO firm in Dallas. When you benchmark us against like any of our peers, who've been around for 60 years, 100 years, like we have just as many keywords as them and stuff like that. So that's one piece, is our organic traffic through like SEO. The other thing is just our traffic from social media. But like if you really look at our data, like what's bringing people to our website, it is our emails and text messages. Just constantly just finding something to yell about to bring people to our website. Our email list is about 750,000. Our text message list is about 100,000. So, and we hit that hard every single week, and all of that starts to add up pretty quick.
We got Sarah back there.
Yeah. My question is actually kind of off of that, is how are you then growing your email and SMS list? You mentioned some collabs, but how else are you kind of working to get more people in that list?
Yeah, so there's two ways that have been working really well. Obviously, like our pop-ups on our website, like that's the biggest thing too, is like that's been working really, really well. And since we've started the company, we have never done an incentive for our pop-up. So our pop-up is pretty much either, do you want this knife or not? And pretty much if you don't, just like, I guess you're into spoons or something like that. So, but then yeah, I know. So, but then the like just in the past, like near future, the thing that's been helping us a ton is the collaborative giveaways. Working with bigger brands, working with Yeti, working with Black Rifle Coffee, getting like 5 or 6 brands together. I jokingly call it like, hey, let's get the cool kid table together. Let's give away one of our best products as a large, prize pack, and use that as an email capture. And that's been working really, really well. It blows my mind how many of those I do, and the fellow brands, I feel like they don't even put those emails into their system and start using them. I'm talking the second I get that list, it is loaded in Klaviyo before that email is even done loading.
Yeah.
And getting those people like onboarded.
Then they become part of your list.
Exactly.
Follow-up question on that. If you don't mind sharing, do you know what your mix is between new and repeat? I'm just guessing that you're higher on the repeat side than a lot of businesses here.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad you asked that, because we have an insane repeat buyer. And I always joke, this was the most wrong I've ever been about this company. When we started this company, like we've always modeled ourselves after Yeti. We're like, hey, this is the one cooler you need. It's the only cooler you're ever gonna need. And that's how we actually started the company, Montana Knife Company. We're like, our original saying was like, here's the knife you could hand to anyone going on any hunt anywhere in the world. It's the only knife you'll ever need, and you're gonna pass it down to your kids and all that. So like it's kind of wild. Like one of our board members, like one of my KPIs is literally fighting for new customers into our funnel because of our drop model. So it's like, how do I get new customers able to buy a knife? Because our current customers are so fast at buying the knives that they don't allow new customers to buy knives, which is a wild scenario to actually be in.
So how are you doing it?
So we're doing it through those secret drops.
Yeah.
So it's like those secret drops. So whenever like Black Rifle Coffee sends their entire email list to this secret page, that secret page is open for 24 hours. It may only have like 300 knives on it, but it gives those people a chance to actually buy a knife. And then also too, like those random in-stock knife drops that we're having, or people are able to buy them there.
I'm wondering if you could take us through what one of those email collaborations looks like with the larger brand. I'm curious about how the outreach looks like, and like if it's with a larger brand, what is the comparable looks like? Are you guys offering them something? Obviously, you're offering them your email list, but what does that trade look like?
Yeah, so no, it's actually wild. So it's Are you talking about the giveaway collaboration part or?
Yeah,
or
exactly. I mean, you said you partnered with like Black Rifle Coffee Company, and you said that like you take their emails, you put them into your system right away, and they're not even using them. So I'm just curious, how does that relationship start, especially with a larger brand like Black Rifle?
It's kind of like a large sweepstakes just between general brands, and like I'm not taking the entire Black Rifle Coffee list, but like if we do a secret drop and there's a landing page that only their customers or their exclusive members have access to, then they're sending their entire list to my website, and then it's my job to convert them once they get there. But then what I think you're asking about is the collaborative email capture through like a giveaway. So if we would do a giveaway with just like Yeti, so we would do a set of chef's knives, and then we would do a Yeti cooler. And then what we do is we would have the same content shot, and then I would send out an email from my customer list to my customer list saying like, hey guys, we're doing this massive giveaway with Yeti, go sign up for this. And then it's kind of both Yeti is my job to get people to convert and sign up for that giveaway. And then that's the same thing with Yeti. Yeti will send that out to that same landing page from their email list. And then whatever emails do actually convert on that landing page, that's the emails that we share. Yeah.
Quick question. So it sounds like you have a lot of really great problems to have right now. How are you thinking about expansion into retail? And then I guess it sounds like you have a board and took on investors. Like what's kind of like the long-term goal with the business, and where do you guys want to take it?
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, since we are in-house manufacturing everything, that's always going to be our largest like filter, is just getting to the point of building as many knives as possible every single week. Because again, like going back to that scarcity model, everyone, you go into our comments, they're like, "Oh man, this FOMO marketing is killing me." I'm like, and I just want to like get in there and just be like, man, I wish I had another 1,000 knives. It's not like we're really truly not restricting. We have a knife drop tomorrow, and I don't even know how many knives we're dropping because that all depends on what we actually finish, package, and put on the shelves by Thursday at 5:00. We have an awesome board. Right now, Josh and I are still the only owners. We have one guy that has like 2%, and we just brought him in to keep him in the board and to have skin in the game. But that is one thing too, is like, we got really good advice early on to set up a board of advisors. And if anyone has a brand, like I highly, it is really good just to like say like, hey, every quarter we have to have a board meeting. Like if we didn't have that board of advisors, I don't think Josh and I would actually have a board meeting where we actually go back and look back at the quarter, because we're like I said, we're just moving forward so fast.
Your calendar's just stacked, right? So you just get lost in that a little bit. So this forces you, the board meetings force you to take stock.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like I said, and they push us and like all that stuff too, which I think is really, really good. But to ask your question about like what's like expansion, like what's happening. So right now we're in a 10,000 square foot facility. We just broke ground on our next one that's going to be about 50,000 square feet. And that should be our kind of like our end all building for what we need to do for the size of the knife company that we actually want to become. But like I said, like since we are manufacturing, that means right now we're pigeonholed at like how many CNC machines, machine time, plus assemblers and all that stuff too. And that goes into like the whole folder thing. And like, that's why we're kind of like, the delayed gratification on that is like, let's hold that off as long as possible and grow this part of the business, because once we sell someone a fixed blade, we know they're going to want a folder down the road.
Or a culinary knife. It's my favorite kitchen knife for sure.
Yeah.
Do you always have your own in-house manufacturing, or is that something that developed because you needed more product?
Yeah, no. So since we are like a true knife company owned by a master bladesmith, it's always been really important that the knives are made in-house, inspected by someone who understands like the highest form of how to make a piece of cutlery. There's a lot of processes that are done out of house, like our heat treating, like the laser, when you're cutting the laser profile out, and then obviously the manufacturing of the steel. I mean, that comes from a steel mill in upstate New York. But a lot of our processes are out of house, and then our goal, is to eventually try to bring in as much as possible that, that's worth bringing in.
Yeah, like we went from all handmade products, and we're just the foray with like machine made, and that's obviously where we're going to take the business. But we're debating whether we're going to start getting our own CNC machines and doing that in house, and they're expensive machines. My husband works at a machine shop, so
yeah.
I was just wondering, like, when you made that jump, or if it was something that you started at the core of your business.
Yeah, and we were almost forced to make that jump. That's the one thing too, is like it got to the point where, all the people, so like our handles were made in Ohio and by amazing CNC machine shop who specializes in that material, which is G10. But the problem is like we just completely outgrew his capacity within a year, and we're like, if we're outgrowing him in a year, like what's this mean? So we slowly just started like almost forcing ourselves to like purchase the CNC machines. And the problem is the machines are expensive, but what's even more expensive are the people to actually to run the machines.
Just a quick one here. I want to dive a little deeper into the 5 emails.
Yeah.
So one is, does that flow of emails start on Saturday or Sunday? This is just a quick question.
So the 5 specific emails start on Tuesday.
And they stop on Thursday?
Thursday at 7 p.m., yes.
And then are you just sending to the interested segment in that drop and just sending to all of them, or are 5 emails going to people that clicked the previous email? Like, what's that part look like?
So it's the only segment we're doing is obviously like we're segmenting out the bounces and like stuff like the junk emails, things like that. But we run a really, really tight 90-day active list. So if you've been on the website, you click through the website, you clicked on an email, open email, any type of interaction with the brand with at least 90 days, you're getting all 5 of those emails. Thursday night, we call our nuke. We kind of like, hey, maybe you haven't messed with us in 3 months, but this is your chance to get one. So it's very, very aggressive. And our open rates on all of them are still in the high 40s to low 50s.
That's great.
So
And the click-through rates?
Click-through rate. So the click-through rates are wild because they just view it on Wednesday because there's nothing to actually click through to because they can't buy it. So when you look at our Klaviyo dashboard, it's like open rates excellent, conversion excellent, like all this stuff, but then like click-through rates like meh.
Yeah.
Because our emails are truly just like big beautiful notifications, like because we brought them in through Instagram, so that was kind of like always my secret sauce when I was running the email agency, was like how your customers coming into your brand should be like how your emails are presented to them. We've always been a very, very highly visual, high-end content company, and like your email should match that. Like, if you're doing beautiful Instagram posts, like your email should be that. So like our email is almost an extension of our Instagram.
Are you doing a lot of content on your Instagram? Are you being the front man on your Instagram?
No. So Josh is really the face of it.
Okay.
He's really, really good on camera, one take wonder every single time, but he's also just like salt of the earth. Like everyone loves him.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And so I always joke that I'm like kind of the back half of the horse, kind of running everything. And I don't know about how you guys feel, but like also too, like I have like marketer's guilt. Like it's almost like I can't get in front of the camera because I know what I'm doing, but
pulling the strings.
But it's almost good to kind of like have Josh there as that person who was like, hey, say it like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your plausible deniability.
Yeah, exactly.
That's perfect. Nice.
I got another one. What's your AOV, and does that influence your product development? Like I see on your website, you've got some really expensive knives, and you have some kind of lower cost knives too. So I'm just curious, and maybe you can touch a little bit on product development. Like how does that work?
Our AOV right now is around 275, I believe, is like our average order value, because we have knives anywhere between $220 up to $500. So we have a pretty high AOV for what I like to think. Pretty much like how product development runs is it's kind of like based off of demand. So, well, it's 2 things. It's demand of like, are we making a knife for this person? So we go find that persona, we've been talking about all day, and try to make a knife specifically for that person. Sometimes we even niche down so far that like that person might be a couple thousand in the United States, but it also gives us like that credibility that we are making knives for working people, because our tagline is working knives for working people. So this week is actually probably like one of our most like niche down knives. It's a large like processing knives for butchers, but it's going to be like, it's like the ultimate knife for the backyard. But the idea is like, this is what butchers are using to break down their knives and stuff like that. So like I said, product development, we usually start with the user and try to work backwards from there. But then on the soft goods side, I'm literally trying to make products for the people that are on my email list. Like I'm looking at our persona and being like, hey, these guys are 35 to 45, they're hunters, they probably listen to rock music. Like if you look at a lot of our like apparel, it's kind of like that millennial nostalgic from the early 2000s and stuff like that. So yeah.
We talked about like aftermarket. So we have some products we discontinued just because they weren't what we needed. We sold them for $36. We'll see them selling on the market for like $500 for this discontinued, poorly made product. Like we discontinued, crochet hook that you can get in Walmart for like $1. Your drops are relatively low, like 2,000, 2,500 units. Do you have a big aftermarket audience who's purchasing your products for a lot of money?
Yeah. So we do. So we have a Facebook group called the MKC User Society, and that's usually where all those things pop up. So a lot of people will just buy the drops and just flip it immediately on there.
Somebody made that like a buy sell group for our company.
Yeah.
That we had to like go after them and be like, can we join your buy sell group that you made for our products? But it's really interesting to see that market that they will pay this much money for something that they can't get anywhere else.
Yeah. No, that's it just shows you that like you have that collector built into your business, which is awesome.
So I'm curious because we do a lot of drops too. On the drop template schedule that you made, when you're coming up with like the colors, pairs that far in advance, how exactly are you approaching that in terms of your planning? Obviously, you haven't flopped very much, it sounds like, but like every now and then we'll have a flop, something that just doesn't resonate. Yeah. So how are you doing that so far in advance to where you're still confident with the decision of what you're dropping?
Right. No, and that's a great question because, like, to give you an example of, I wouldn't say it's a flop. It's something we didn't understand would be like on our culinary side. So when we launched our culinary sets, it's a very, very high-end kitchen set. It's priced at like $1,300, and then we're like, oh my, and it just crushed, like absolutely did amazing. And we're like, okay, let's just double down on culinary. And we started doing the knives you would add to that culinary set, but we thought that like any of our knife customers would want a cleaver, any of our knife customers would want a paring knife and things like that. And then what we found out is that only the people who bought the knife set want the knife. So we literally had a 90% return customer rate on our future culinary drops. So it's something that we have to pay attention to because we know we only sold this many culinary sets, so we can't make more than how many culinary sets. So to answer your question is like, it is our Bible for manufacturing and everything like that in marketing, but we can change it. And we have no problem like, hey, this knife didn't do as crazy as we thought. Like that next round, instead of it being, 3,000, maybe it should only be like 2,000. And then we can, take those, because we can only manufacture so many knives a week. So we have this, so pretty much like next year we looked and we kind of mathed it out that we can only make like 160,000 knives next year. So that calendar started with like, we can make 160,000 knives. Let's take, 40% of that for in-stock annuities. And then that leaves us with, like 100,000 knives to make for drops. And then we split up those 100,000 over the 52 weeks. And then, so to answer your question, this is like how we're like, if there's no changes, we're moving forward on it, but we can definitely make some changes.
Follow up to that. Because on your site, like, when you go to all knives, they're like all sold out, right? Yeah. Is that you're just keeping that on there to just fuel the scarcity further and then fuel the email list?
Yes.
Subscriber, because I saw the notify.
Yep, yeah, 100%. So, and like all of our knives, like we don't do customs. So when we drop a knife, we only drop it in 6 colors. And we're like extremely, extremely religious about that because that's for 2 reasons is when we launch a new knife, I can go shoot content for that and just go shoot content super heavy to the point where like I almost don't even get to post everything that we shot for that first drop. And then when we bring it back for a restock, I can actually go back and use the content that we didn't use from the first drop as the second drop content. And it doesn't, so when you're changing colors constantly, you have to constantly shoot new content.
Very cool. Nice. Thanks very much, Brandon. Looks like lunch is ready back there. Great. Please find Brandon on the boat. And thanks, man. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can do that right now at directtoconsumer.co. I'm Eric Dick, and this has been the D2C Podcast. We'll see you next time.